Okay, this video is going to be chapter 33 from the book Medical Reformation, and we're going to go through some topics like sympathetic autonomic nervous system as well as parasympathetic autonomic nervous system, and that has to do with stress, and it also ends up tying into excitotoxicity and causes of brain damage. So SANS is sympathetic autonomic nervous system, which means fight or flight, the accelerator of the autonomic nervous system. So you're basically either in SANS or PANS, and you'd like to spend more of your life in just more towards PANS, more relaxed, and how these things relate to metabolism. Okay, so what are the two main phases of the body? Well, what are the main phases of human metabolism? There's postprandial. Prandial means eating, so after eating, belly full phase. And certain things happen at that time. Insulin comes up, pushes the glucose into the skeletal muscle, for example. And then there's the fasting phase or starvation phase. So, after 6 to 8 hours, then you kind of start relying more on liver production of glucose by, for example, breaking down glycogen and also running gluconeogenesis, the production of glucose from other things. Okay, what is the autonomic nervous system? The autonomic nervous system is sort of like an accelerator and a brake. The accelerator is sympathetic. Sympathetic autonomic nervous system is fight or flight. Fight, flight, or freeze, all right, for stressful situations. Autonomic is called rest and digest, or feed and breed. Okay, so for sex, for just sleeping, taking it easy, digesting your food. And you want to spend more of your life in more of that, PANS, parasympathetic autonomic nervous system. It's just easier to call them PANS and SANS. And you can remember P for PANS is also P for postprandial. Okay, let's see. Why does the body separate the two? Because they're different. Because the body has limited resources. Okay, it has a limited amount of blood, a limited amount of ability to make ATP, and it also needs to sleep to clean the neurons at night. So SANS is like for the hunger phase. It'll perk you up. Like when you wake up in the morning, you get a burst of cortisol to give you energy, to raise your blood glucose levels, so you'll have the energy to go find some food. In addition, you get ghrelin from the stomach, G for ghrelin, G for gastric. It kind of activates your hippocampi, your memory centers, makes you more alert. A hungry animal needs to be smart so it can go find some food. What's the best time to sleep? When you got a full belly at night, okay? That's why you want to do your challenging intellectual work first thing in the morning when you're smartest. When an animal's got a big belly, it don't need to be smart. It's a good time to go to sleep. Okay, sympathetic activation can be mild, moderate, or complete. A mild sympathetic is just waking up in the morning, going to school, going to work. Moderate sympathetic might be studying for your exams, a little bit more serious, or getting ready for an athletic competition. Okay, complete SANS is when there's real, true physical danger. You're walking down a path in the forest and all of a sudden there's a bunch of coyotes in your path, okay? Or being chased by a tiger in the dark. That's the metaphor that all medical students use to learn the manifestations of stress, okay? Blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, your pupils dilate, you get a little sweaty, you become more blood's diverted to your muscles so you become stronger, you can run faster. Blood to the gut is shut down. When you shut down blood to the gut, that can also increase your risk of leaky gut. That's why excessive stress will cause leaky gut. Okay, cortisol and catecholamines, they'll both increase blood glucose, so they'll cause insulin resistance. That's why chronically being psychologically stressed, drinking caffeine, sleep deprived, has the same hormones get elevated. All those things will increase your insulin resistance, your tendency towards diabetes. A little bit of stress is what you need for an acute physical situation, but chronic high rates of stress tend to increase your risk of obesity, of course, because you got elevated blood glucose and lipids and more tendency towards diabetes. I used to know a lot of good surgeons who were fat, and I think it's because they were stressed out. They're working long hours, often on frequent call, and taking on these incredible workloads. Okay, the old joke used to be that surgeons are the best people to marry because they work all the time, they make lots of money, but they're never home, they never spend any of it, so the wife just gets to spend all their money. And if he complains about it, she'll just divorce him and keep all his money, so the poor guy's screwed. The Duke University, a real theoretically great surgical program, used to brag about almost all of its residents being divorced. That was considered like a badge of honor because they were such workaholics. Clotting factors in the blood are also increased. Imagine the tiger scratches you, so you want the blood to clot faster in case the tiger scratches you, you don't bleed too much or bite you. Okay, how does mild to moderate SANS make us smarter? Well, it makes us more alert. So a little bit of SANS is good to perk you up in the morning when you wake up. But you don't want too much SANS because then you switch into the mammal brain. Remember the three-part brain? Brainstem at the bottom, mammal brain, then on top is cerebral cortex. You want to be in your cerebral cortex mode to do your most sophisticated work. So just enough SANS to perk you up, but not enough to make you distracted or anxious. Cortisol increases the release of glutamate neurotransmitter in the hippocampus of the brain. That's about 90% of brain neurotransmitters are glutamate. It's excitatory neurotransmitter. Okay, GABA is about 5%. That shuts things off, and all the other ones you've heard of are all the rare ones, about 1%. Serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, etc. Complete SANS makes us stupid because it makes us like an animal trapped in a corner. It just fights. Okay, it doesn't think a lot. Complete SANS is just pure instinct, and it's fast. Again, a mammal reacts fast without a lot of thought. The Yerkes-Dodson curve of intellectual performance increases with mild to moderate stress. So you want enough stress to have you ready to go, hyped up, good blood flow to your muscles, but not so much that you're anxious. Okay, why should we care about our stress level? Well, you want to get it right so you can perform optimally. Again, enough to get you energized, but not so much that it gets you anxious. What does PANS do? So PANS is for postprandial. Postprandial means after eating, belly full. So its main thing is to get you to digest your food. It's when things are good. You can take it easy. You had a nice meal. You go to a movie with your girlfriend. Okay, you have a nice meal. You're in a good mood. You're relaxed. It's a good time for making the two-back beast. Okay, PANS is all for that. On the other hand, if you're holding hands walking down a path in the forest and all of a sudden a bunch of coyotes come towards you, it's not a good time for anything other than to try to survive the next 20 minutes, okay? So that's SANS, sympathetic autonomic. Okay, it facilitates digestion and all your digestive enzymes and all that stuff. So PANS is rest and digest, feed and breed. And rest is when the body repairs itself. It's the best time for healing anything. It's the best time for the brain neurons to clean themselves. They can't go offline in the day. You're busy awake. You got to be alert to survive. And when you're asleep, the neurons can release their pump their waste products into the extracellular matrix, and then the cerebral spinal fluid permeability is increased to the brain parenchyma to rinse away the waste products. So you clean your neurons and they're fresh in the morning and ready to go. The brain has to maintain precise neuronal gradients in the daytime while you're awake, negative 65 millivolt plasma membrane electrical potentials. Okay, that's why we have a blood-brain barrier in the daytime and after eating to keep the brain parenchyma precise in its ionic gradients. Okay, so PANS and SANS are a little bit like a seesaw. When one goes up, the other goes down, and you'll often have a certain amount of balance of both of them. But it's kind of good to understand a little bit how your body works, and you can kind of tweak it to get the best results. The brain hormone of SANS is cortisol, and kind of the brain hormone opposites of cortisol are oxytocin and melatonin. Melatonin is especially for helping you sleep, and it's also an antioxidant. Okay, oxytocin is especially for feeling warm and safe and loving, so it's the love hormone, whereas cortisol is a stressed out, hyped up hormone, insomnia. Okay. And you need cortisol. Without cortisol, you wouldn't be able to handle your acute stress events, and you need to handle those to survive. But you want more oxytocin, love in your life, and more sleep. Most of us do. Okay, oxytocin, you feel safe, all good. Okay, sodium and calcium are the electrolytes that promote SANS. Yeah, if you're eating more sodium and calcium, you'll trend more into SANS. So this is a little bit of the kind of stuff that relates to food and mood. So people often dramatically improve their moods when they go from eating a meat diet with processed food that's high in sodium and calcium to a plant diet that's more high in potassium and magnesium. Okay, these promote PANS nervous system. Magnesium, think of M for magnesium, M for mellow out. Okay, it blocks the NMDA receptor for glutamate in the brain and hippocampal neurons, so it'll decrease excitability of the brain central nervous system. The vitamins in plant foods like vitamin C help promote PANS. The toxins in meat and processed food like iron help promote SANS. Because again, you want to go into SANS when you need it, but you want to spend more time towards PANS. Most of us spend too much time in SANS, sympathetic autonomic nervous system. Okay, the SAD diet has a tendency to promote SANS. It has an excess of sodium, calcium, and iron, and a relative lack of potassium, magnesium, and vitamin C. So again, this is food and mood, because it's been shown in children, it's been shown in adults, and I know from my own personal experience that I mellowed out in a good way as I became more of a vegetarian and a vegan. Okay, we talked about the brain cleans itself when it sleeps with the lymphatic system. I had a whole separate chapter on that. Okay. Oh, another reason I said, one of the reasons why I believe in God is the complexity of the brain. Gosh, there's 100 billion neurons, and there's about 10 times as many supporting cells, and then there's like over a trillion synapses, and then they have to connect to all the other parts of the body. That's just way too complex to correctly happen all the time in all these people. It's amazing, the primordial soup metaphor of a bucket of pond scum with a lightning bolt creating modern sophisticated life. It's nonsense, okay? All right, lymphatic. We talked about lymphatic system to clean the brain. Getting a little redundant here. We're smartest when we wake up in the morning because our brain cells are cleaned. How can we induce PANS? Just by mellowing out, or you take a big nap and that can get you to sleep. Also, things like beautiful nature, thinking about your purpose in life, being around people you like. Love of nature is called biophilia. All those things make you feel good. That's why really rich people, they always buy a house in nature, like on a hill next to a lake. Okay, so they got water, so they have a beautiful view. Humans just like that. The painting that will put you very quickly in that mood is Among the Sierra Nevada Mountains by Albert Bierstadt. It's like the most beautiful landscape painting ever made. Among the Sierra Nevada Mountains by Albert Bierstadt. Okay, let's see what's next here. Having a pet dog makes you happy. Being around friends, all these things relax you. Listening to Christian music, it's beautiful and it's soothing. A nice shower relaxes you. We talk about the importance of having a good carbon water filter, at least to get the estrogenics out of there. Even better, to sometimes remove some of these other things. The chlorine is also removed by the carbon filter. Doesn't remove fluoride though. You'll need a reverse osmosis, and potentially some of those newer things can do it. Distillation can too, but distillation's cumbersome. Okay. For men, making the two-back beast helps them a lot to sleep. According to my wife, it's not as helpful to women. Religion can increase PANS by giving a person a sense of purpose, meaning, and safety. The way we induce SANS, let's see. My coach used to always say to me, "Stay hungry and you're smartest." But that's a complex subject. We'll get into that later. In the early waking hours of the morning, I'm not hungry because my blood glucose is maintained by cortisol. Oh, the reason I don't eat when I'm doing academics for the day project until I'm all done is because as soon as you eat, your IQ drops like 20, 30 points. You feel sleepy and dopey. You can't read so well anymore because you're overdoing the PANS, the parasympathetic. Okay, anytime you move, that's SANS. That's another reason why if you wake up at night to void, don't move around too much. Don't get carried away with your movement. Do what you got to do and get back to bed, because the more you move around, the more you're activating SANS, and the harder it will be to go back to sleep. I've also noticed lots of times when I'm reading a book, if I just and I start spacing out, I can't remember what I got to the end of the paragraph, and I walk, I can then often read the book again. I do that lots of times when I feel like I got to finish a book for the weekend or something. Somebody asked me to read something, for example. We talked about dietary sodium chloride will increase SANS. That's another reason to avoid salt. I would never do it on purpose, ingest that. I'll talk about a caffeine substitute, and I'll make a separate video of that. I got a good idea for that. I don't take any supplements currently except vitamin B12 in the form of methylcobalamin. Caffeine, of course, increases SANS. How do we increase cognitive performance? Actually, you know what? I'll just call that video for now, and we'll start with this next time. It's getting kind of late. I got to eat my dinner, and I don't want to bore you with too long of a video. Hope that was helpful so far.